Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us tonight on episode 18, season 4 of The Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're here live every Wednesday on Facebook throughout the season. Evening, Richie. Well, the Warriors put on a great display to ruin the Raiders party, but unfortunately for me, the Dragons also got a win. First of all, how was your weekend, and what did you think of the round?
Obviously, love the round, mate. The Warriors' performance was fantastic, and I've been fizzing all week because of that. Week's been pretty full on. I've been to Napier and Hastings and touring around for work, so I'm back home now and settling down and trying to consume all the Warriors praise I can online.
Yeah, definitely. It has been a good week for that. And good enough win, thankfully, to tide us over for this bye week. So, while we're here live on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m., also catch our show at your convenience on the podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, all those places. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week, a review of round 15, and an update on our tips. We'll then stop and answer some questions that we've got for each other, as well as questions you guys have thrown us throughout the show. We'll then preview round 16 and make our tips before ending the night with a recap of the Super League. So remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show, and we'll do our best to answer them. I see Mikey and Jacko are here. Evening, guys. And Richie, we may as well jump straight into the top stories. And I see Simon's here. I was surprised Simon was here after the Raiders lost, but good to see you here, Simon.
Condolences, Simon.
So first up, I suppose the biggest news that's been running around the NRL at the moment is Luke Brooks. After the Tigers have basically offered every half under the sun a contract, they threw one his way and he said no, and is going to leave the club at the end of the year. Rumours are swirling that it's basically going to be announced any time now that he's going to become a Cowboy. But what's your thoughts first on him deciding to go? And do you think the Cowboys' job, if it is what's going to happen, will that be a good spot for him to land?
It's probably long overdue, him parting ways with the club. He's been there a long time, and he's had a good season or two. One where he picked up Delium halfback of the year, but other than that, it's been pretty slim pickings, especially taking into account the kind of coin he's on. Not saying he's a bad player at all. It's probably just the bad fit for him at the Tigers. That club not getting the best out of him. So, not sure about the Cowboys though. That seems an interesting destination for me. What do you reckon about that?
Well, he does have a relationship with Peyton from when Peyton was coaching him at the Tigers in the junior thing. I think it's a great idea for him to move. It's been a long time coming. He's kind of, I know a lot of people have a go at him about how much money he gets paid, but he's not the one picking the salary. If you get offered, 1.2 or whatever it is, you don't say no, do you?
Never say no. No.
But, it'll be. I think it's best for both parties. He needs a fresh start, and the Tigers need to kind of move on. It's just a question, who replaces him there. They kind of painted themselves into a corner by relying on him for so long and letting guys like Jackson Hastings and the likes just walk out the club. With a news story in a little bit about the Roosters, Sam Walker could be free to a good home at the moment. So could they potentially go from one young half with promise that they potentially have ruined to another? I don't know. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It sounds like we could hear confirmation from the Cowboys before the end of the week. So, I don't know. Interesting times. But, I think it's a good move for both parties.
Absolutely.
Next bit of news, another one that sounds like it's going to be confirmed sooner rather than later, but it sounds like Shane Flanagan is days away from becoming the Dragons head coach from 2024 on a 3-year deal, it's rumored. We kind of talked a bit about it last week when it was still just, bubbling away as a rumor, but do you think he can fix the Dragons? I did see some tongue-in-cheek comments on Facebook about how much better some of those players will be on PEDs. But do you think he can make the Dragons better? And do you think he's the type of coach that will be able to convince Ben Hunt to stay?
Well, where they're sitting at the moment, dead last, it's the only way is up from there. I do rate Shane Flanagan as a coach. PEDs aside, I think he's a really good coach. So, I think if anybody's going to get something out of the Dragons, out of the people who are available, he might be able to do something. Rise them from the ashes and get them off the bottom of the table, and much to your displeasure, Brad.
Yeah, in all honesty, he feels like the only option. Out of people that are actually interested, because I feel like it's such a dumpster fire there right now that throwing a rookie coach in there isn't going to help. Could be wrong. Look at the Warriors.
Dumpster fire is pretty harsh, Brad. They just beat the Rabbitohs.
Well, yeah, but the Tigers beat the Panthers. You're allowed one surprise game a year, mate. Come on.
You are.
But yeah, they're a mess, and yeah, maybe he gets them back on track. Personally, I hope he doesn't. But we'll see what happens as the show goes further and further into me being super biased. And yeah, Paul's finally decided to show up. Thank you for turning up, Paul.
Hello. Brad's over the moon.
Yeah, does that mean I can take my little pitches down now? I'm not sure. Paul's just left us too, so
Brad can kick his feet up now.
Yeah, so we'll go on to the next bit of news. There wasn't actually a lot of news that I felt was of note. I had basically, thanks, Paul. We had like 3 stories. We had the 2 we just mentioned. The last one is about the Roosters, your favorite team, your predicted premiers. There's been a lot of noise coming out today that they're going to have a massive player clean out. They're saying between 10 and 12 players could potentially be gone by the end of the year. Lodge, as we've already spoken about, has confirmed that he's not going to be there anymore. Sounds like it's firming up that Joseph Suaalii is going to be released early to go to Union. And then you've also got, I've got a list here, Drew Hutchinson, Connor Watson, Jake Turpin, Billy Smith, Jackson Borlow, and Nathan Brown, who just came there this year as like a straight signing, could all be looking for a new club, with also Sam Walker and Paul Momorowski potentially being able to be released. And then on top of that, Richie, getting rid of all these players, it sounds like they're trying to bring Mitchell Pearce back as well. So they're your team.
Yeah.
So you let me know what do you reckon?
Well, the thing is, they're actually not my team. I despise them. I was trying to reverse psychology them into this position, and mission accomplished, because they're not going great. Yeah, interesting times, mate. Out of all those names you listed off there as possible cast-offs, it wasn't just one that's just come there this year. There's at least 2 or 3. So yeah, interesting. And the past couple years, they've lost a couple of good assistant coaches as well. So lot of moving parts there at their club. Yeah, I mean, a lot of moving parts there at their club, and the results are a bit here or there. Probably, more bad than good right now. So, as much as I picked them to do well this year, I was blinded by some of those superstar names. I'm loving I'm loving the struggle going on there.
Yeah, well, all those names I released doesn't really fix their problem of having a team of champions over a champion team. They've still got all those I don't want to say big egos, but all those big stars, which, it looks great on paper, but they're clearly not working together. Maybe it's something they can address, but you'd think they would have addressed it by now. We're over the halfway point of the season. It was clearly not working in the early stages. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on there. And Mitchell Pearce, it sounds like they want to bring him back in like a 14 role, which I feel like you could get more out of like Turpin or Watson in that type of role.
Yeah, Mitchell Pearce strikes me as a starting halfback, or why bother? I don't look at him like he'd make a big impact in a 14 jumper at his age, this point of his career, when he's just been over in Super League playing at that level. I don't know. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't. Who knows? He'll come out if he does get confirmed. He'll come out next year and prove them all wrong. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. So we'll just keep our ears on the ground for this and see what develops. But sounds like the Roosters going to get rid of a lot of the depth players while keeping the guys that are doing the job right now. So see, sounds like a great way of running a club. But old Politis knows a bit more than we do. So yeah, move on. Before we go on to Origin. We've talked about it on shows in the past. I'm doing the shave for a cure. Shaving my beautiful hair away. We've got the date, so the page is up and running now. I've shared it on my Facebook page. I'm sure I can beg Paul to share it on the New Zealand Sports Radio page too. It's up to $982, I think, at the moment, and the shave's happening on the 30th of the 6th, which is the day of the Warriors' next home game. So I'm actually doing it at my work. I'll get a video done so we can put a video up and stuff. But if you're able to donate a couple of bucks, be greatly appreciated. And it's going to good cause. And Jacko said cutthroat razor. No, it's just the number one. But that's in the rules. But it's going to be a bit different. And it's not a mullet, Robbie. It's beautiful long hair that goes everywhere. I just keep it tied back.
It could be a mullet.
And see, Paul's just put the link in.
Yeah, just put the link in the chat, so hopefully you should be able to see it all, right, folks, across Brad's page, my page, and also my YouTube. If you're on Twitter, then head over to Facebook.
Cool. So cheers for that, Paul. So yeah, that's really all we had for the news. And Nick said we also trim the beard. The beard will be tidied, but yeah, the beard's not going. I've had a lot of calls to shave that as well, but I've said the price isn't manageable for what I'd be willing to have to shave it off. So it's staying. I'll just look like a criminal with a number one for a couple of weeks. Well, we'll move on to State of Origin. I gave Paul a picture, but we know he's never up to task here. Wrong one, Paul. Come on, move it across. There we go. So we've got the Origin sides. So I'll let you, like we did last time, you can name the losing team's squad first, and then I'll talk about the defending champs here. So who's New South Wales got now?
All right, so James Tedesco, Brian Tor, Josh Adokar wingers, Latrell Mitchell, Tom Trebojevic centers, Jerome Luai and Mitchell Moses is called in to replace Nathan Cleary. Junior Bolo, Payne Haas the props. Damien Cook is in for Api Coruscant. Tyson Frizzell, Hudson Young keep the edge second rower spots. Isaiah Yeo keeps the lock. The bench, Stefano Utukamano, Cam Murray, Liam Martin, Reece Robson's called in as an extra hooker, and Stephen Crichton, Keon Kalormatangi.
Yeah, then for the Maroons, we've got Reece Walsh at fullback, Xavier Coates and Murray Talangi on the wings, Valentine Holmes and the Hammer in the centres. Halves pairing of Munster and Cherry Evans. Front row is Big Tino, Ben Hunt, and Lindsay Collins. David Fafita and Jeremiah Nanai in the second row. Pat Carrigan at lock. And then you've got Harry Grant, Thomas Fletcher, Ruben Cotter, Moeki Fotweka, AJ Brimson, and Corey Horsburgh. The Big Red Machines made his call up. First, we'll go with New South Wales. What's your thoughts on that squad and having Jerome the Grub Luai and Flat Track Bully Moses in the halves?
I'm actually good with Luai keeping his spot. I think he was one that could have held his head high from game one, and I think he's been performing well in Clubland as well. Mitch Moses, I can see why he's been picked. So also looking at how the Sharks are travelling, Nico Hines, as much as he's been going really well the past year and a bit, he hasn't managed to beat a top 8 side so far this year. So putting him in Queensland, up against Queensland at Suncorp Stadium with the series on the line might have been a bit of a stretch. Their hand was forced a bit bringing Cook back in, but I thought Cook should have been their game one anyway, and then go with the 2 hooker rotation. The only other one, they've axed Tavita Pangai Jr. from game one, which a lot of people wouldn't have picked him there in the first place. So I think it's a squad that can do the job if they turn up and play their best. So Latrell Mitchell being back as a plus 2 if he's all good to go. So should be interesting.
Yeah, I think Mitch Moses, if you went on the weekend just gone, all the available players were auditioning, I felt like he probably, won the audition. Clearly, he got picked. But it was kind of, for me, out of the 3 you were thinking of, it was between him and Reynolds by the end of the round for me in terms of performance. But I think with the Reynolds one, I would have done the whole, I think Wayne Bennett even said it. He said if it was him, he would have Reynolds and Cody Walker in the halves.
Cody Walker, yeah.
And so that's maybe too many chairs getting shuffled around for Fittler, who's already panicking as it is. It's interesting. And your take on it's still a good side, as all Origin sides are always stacked anyway. But I think it's going to be a tall order for them in Suncorp. But what's your take on the Maroon side? A few changes they had to make with injuries, but it's a pretty good side.
Yeah, it's obviously a very good side. It's very much similar to the team that took out game one. Xavier Coates is there this time round for Cobbo, so shame for Cobbo. He's been in good form, but good opportunity for Coates. Jeremiah Nanai, I was a bit surprised by because he's been out for a while, and when he has been playing this year, I don't think he's hit the same heights that he hit last year, so maybe Billy Slater's shown a bit of faith in him there, but I'm sure he'll go well, and I'm sure they'll be firing.
Yeah. So we won't talk about predictions on this one yet. We'll predict it next week before it happens. But I feel like, are you going to stick with your side this time, or are you going to?
Nah, not at Suncorp, mate. I feel like this is series done and dusted. Unfortunately, I would love to see it go to a decider, but I think it's a bit of a tough ask.
Yeah. Oh, and also for game 3, 660 are going to be performing. So that's something to get people through the doors for a dead rubber. But they've got to try something to get people in those seats, Richie, But yeah, so we'll move on to signings. We've only really got one. I can't remember if we talked about it last week, but Scott Sorensen has been extended by the Panthers by another 3 years.
I mean, 660. I mean, a Kiwi band playing. It seems all wrong. It should be a test match between a Trans-Tasman test match.
Yeah. Oh, we were all rugby league now.
660 transcend countries, Paul. But yeah, so that was it. What's your take on Scott Sorensen? I think he's been playing really well this year for the Panthers.
Good.
Um,
Good for the Panthers.
would have loved to see him in a Warriors jersey myself.
Oh, 100%. He
got
strikes
a
me
lot
as
of
the kind
second
of guy.
rowers though.
We do, but he does strike me as someone that would go really well under a Andrew Webster regime. But he's fantastic, mate. He's been going really good for the Panthers. I think they've got a really good one on their hands now for another 3 years, which is good. I think he'll be great for the Kiwis too going forward.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll move into casualty ward because there's a lot more there. So first one was Api Coruscant from the Tigers, a big omission from the Origin game because he got his jaw broken by Big Tino. He's going to be out for at least 6 weeks. I know the Tigers haven't been traveling that well, have they? But, 6 weeks without Api is going to make them a lot more fragile than we used to.
Yeah, definitely. Might put them back on that wooden spoon path.
And Royce Hunt from the Sharks, he's going to be out for extended period of time. He ruptured his syndesmosis, which is in the ankle, I think.
And a hip drop. He got hip dropped.
The hip drop. He got hip dropped and he's required ankle surgery. I don't believe he's had the surgery yet, but it's scheduled. So yeah, it's not good when you see someone get injured like that in a tackle, like a hip drop.
He's going to be out. He's going to be out for a number of weeks, and I think Christian Welch gets 1 week, doesn't he? Suspension for that.
He got a 1 week suspension for it. And then Alisi Kotoa from the Storm, he's going to miss potentially a few weeks. He was taken to the hospital in the early stages of their match with an eye injury. It does seem to happen a lot. I remember when he was with the Warriors, he had an eye injury too. He got like a rogue finger to the eye. Might need to wear some goggles. I'm not sure, but it's devastating for him. I think he's really been finding his feet there. It was a bit clunky at the start, but he's kind of settled into the groove, and hopefully he's back sooner rather than later for the Storm and for me because he's in my fantasy team. Next up, Jeremy Marshall-King from the Dolphins re-injured his shoulder that saw him miss the game against the Warriors, but they believe he should be okay to return after the bye that they've got this week. And then Selwyn Cobbo, who we already mentioned about Origin, he re-aggravated his hip point injury and is going to miss Origin, as we saw. No word on the exact ETA on him coming back, maybe a couple of weeks. And then also Luke Brooks, who we talked about, he's going to miss a few weeks as well due to a hamstring injury. So what's your take on that? Uppy's already gone. Luke is out. It's going to make the Tigers look really bad.
Yeah, kind of what I kind of agree with Jacko with those two being out. That season done. I think season was already done, but it's putting them back on a dark path unless they can really rally around with the troops they have left and somehow it galvanizes them. But yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow for the Tigers. Yeah,
so that's the injury. So we'll move to Naughty Boy Corner. Two suspensions, I should say. Christian Welch, as you already mentioned, sent a guy to surgery and got a week for his trouble for dangerous contact. And Mitch Barnett from the Warriors got 1 week for his grade 2 careless high tackle. What's your take on the Barnett one?
Let me put on my extremely biased hat here. I thought that was a great tackle.
I'm going to say the other way. I don't know if getting Sim suspended. I think the Sim bin was fine because by the letter of the law. But on that note, that would have meant that Jack Whiten should have also been sent to the bin in that game. But yeah, it was just one of those ones where it was a good hit and then it bounced up. And it's Jordan Rapana. If you show me a player in the NRL that doesn't want to hit Jordan in the head, I'll show you a liar.
You show me a day where he doesn't lie down acting for the penalties too, because that's his forte, and I think he did it more than once again on the weekend.
Yeah, but 1 week, it's not too bad. the Warriors, that week that Barnett's going to miss, the Warriors have the Dragons. So I think half of them are going to be on holiday anyway. So it'll be fine. If he had got more than that, I think it would have been a bit more of a concern. But they were the only suspensions. But Jared Wawera-Hargraves and Spencer Leniu got into a little bit of a skirmish. Great, because they're going to be teammates in a couple of months. But they both, Jared got $6,000 combined for like 2 or 3 charges, and Spencer Leniu got $3,600 for a couple of different charges. But what was your take on their little t-shirt pulling situation?
Yeah, I loved it. Very entertaining. This is a family show. I don't really want to say what I'm really thinking. I just wish it was like ice hockey, where they just let them go at it and then sit them down for a few minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know you can't do that. Yeah, I know. It's just.
It was. I'll talk about it more when we review that game, but I think it was a perfect plan from Jared. Well, no, sorry, other way, from Spencer, and that they were getting under Jared's skin, and they were kind of niggling at the Roosters, and that's why you saw them kind of implode. But I'll talk about that more later on. So anything else you want to add before we move into the round?
No, I cut that off there before I'm getting a bit. You've rubbed off on me too much the past few years, mate.
Yeah, so okay, we'll move into round 15, starting with the Titans defeating the Tigers 28-12. So I'll let you run off the scores.
Yes, 5 tries to 2 for the Titans. AJ Brimson, Cleese Haas, Jaden Campbell, Tino Fa'aso-Malawi, and Philip Sami with the tries. Two tries for the Tigers. David Clemmer and Jareem the Dream Buller.
No, he played bloody well. I'll give him that. But I'll go with the Titans first. Same usual Titans that we're used to. They know their way to the try line. They still missed, even though there was only 12 points conceded, they missed 44 tackles. And it was against a team that didn't really pressure them, which is always going to be their concern as Titans fans. But they got the much-needed win, which is what matters. So they still got that issue with defense, Richie, but I suppose as long as you're winning, does that matter in the big scheme of things? But what's your take on the Titans?
I thought it was a good result. We know they've got tries in them. So, again, 5 tries, they do that pretty regularly. But luckily for them, the Tigers didn't look like firing a lot of shots. So the usual second half embarrassment the Titans go through didn't come to the floor. Yeah,
and your thoughts on the Tigers?
Not the greatest effort from them after producing some decent footy of late, but losing Uppy, and they don't have Brooks now as well. So I mean, losing Uppy didn't help them, but going forward, it's going to be a struggle for the next few weeks.
Yeah, I kind of have the same. I thought they still battled, but they lost a lot of direction when Uppy went off, and losing Brooks in the final 20 didn't help them either. They made 14 errors, which stopped them building momentum to try and get back into the match. And it's kind of it's kind of a bit of a preview of what we're going to see for the next month and a half.
Yeah.
Next game, Warriors defeating the Raiders 36-14. Richie,
he wants to talk about this game so bad. He didn't ask about the player to stand out from the last.
Oh
game.
Yeah, sorry, We'll go back. We both picked the same player. Anyway, we picked Big Tino, didn't we?
Yeah. I thought it was a pretty good choice. Yeah.
Yeah, he ran 155 meters, scored a try, and he took Uppy out of the match.
He did. Good reasoning there, Brad. Let's go to the Warriors game.
Now the Warriors game, sorry.
It was a cracker. 36-14, the Warriors got up. 6 tries to 2. Dallin Martinez-Lesniak, fabulous try. It was so good. Chance got 1. Tom Ale got 1. One of the front rows for Brad. Luke Metcalf, Wade Egan, Sean Johnson were the other 3 try scorers. 2 tries for the Raiders. Jack Whiten got a lucky one, and Josh Papali'i got one 3 minutes from time.
Yeah, so Warriors, brutal yet impressive first half, with the Warriors defending their heart out before turning the second half into a highlight reel performance. Hard to pick any players that didn't play well for them, and the Warriors seem to be hitting their straps now. But there was some questionable calls in the first half from the referee, I thought, but I felt very confident at halftime when that whistle blew and the Warriors were down by 2. The Warriors, were getting back to the sheds, and the Raiders had their hands on their knees. They looked absolutely gassed, and they weren't the ones defending all day. I felt that was the moment where I thought all the Warriors need is ball, and they can do this, especially with the Raiders' reputation of kind of fading in the final 20. And very happy to see the Warriors score a big win here to help the points differential. But your take on the Warriors?
Yeah, and just for Bjorn in the comments, that score was 36-14, Warriors' favour. And I feel like psychologically we broke them almost in that first half. I feel like in the first half we won the game just by managing to hold out the Raiders just to one lucky try, despite them having all the ball pretty much in territory. When we came out after the sheds, I think it was clear who was more up for it. At that point, I think the Raiders had fired all their shots, and then we just took over.
Yeah. My Raiders, they started well, but just ran out of puff, basically. They failed to take advantage of spending most of that first half camped on the Warriors line. And then once the Warriors started rolling, they just couldn't stop them. Taking the performance out of the way, I thought it was a great crowd to show up for Jared Croker's 300th, and congrats on him getting it. I think there was a stat during the game. They said out of all the players that have been one club men to hit 300, only 6 of them have actually won that game, which was an interesting stat. So he's another one that didn't. I think there was like 6 out of 18 at that time that had won it or something like that. I probably got that number wrong because I'm not good at maths, but I know 6 was the definitive one. Simon Mannering being one that won, and it was against the Raiders in that one too, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Simon Mannering's the GOAT though, so.
Yeah, well, he got injured early on, so he didn't finish the game.
But he's still the GOAT.
But yeah, okay. And player to stand out. We've got different ones this time. So I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'm staying with Sean Johnson again. He's doing it all. 3 try assists, really cheeky try at the end after just coming back on the field. A lot of comments I've heard online of Sean Johnson of old probably wouldn't have come back out. He's seems like he's added a couple extra layers of toughness to his game this year, which we can see, with his defense, and he's just playing with a lot more toughness on top of what he already does. And Dally M, anybody? I think I saw a comment up further up the list earlier. It could happen, man, if he stays on this trajectory.
If he stays, it could happen. Unfortunately, they don't allow you to bet on the Dally M winner anymore. Because I was like, putting a tricky little bit of money on SJ to get it. It wouldn't be bad. But, before we move on, I did see some comments going on about Ali Leotawa. My question is to do with him later on, but what was your take? I thought he had a pretty solid debut. I was very impressed with what I saw from him.
Yeah, what I saw from him, which is what I really want to see out of somebody making their debut out in the centres, is his defense. I think they ran a lot of ball his way, and he tackled everything that came his way and made good reads. So for a young fella out in a very tough position to defend, I thought he did really well. Yeah,
definitely. And having to defend against Jared Croker, who he isn't, the most starstruck, score-trying machine like he used to be, but he's still a handy footballer. And we saw there was quite a few moments in that game where he got a bit of space and, tried to do something for the Raiders. So I thought, fantastic from Ali. And before we move on, I was researching because I wanted to pretend that I actually prepared for this show. I still can't find an instance where a team has scored a try after, directly from kickoff, which was the Sean Johnson one. They kicked to the Raiders and then they intercepted and scored. I've never seen it. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I couldn't find one in recent time.
You mean like an intercept or just in general off a kickoff?
Off the kickoff that you kicked off.
Yeah. No, I can't think of one either.
So yeah, there might be one out there, but I couldn't see it. But that was a fantastic try. That just fantastic game. Well done to the Warriors. Unfortunately, we can't watch them again this week, but I'm looking forward to that Dragons clash.
I'll probably watch that replay again, to be fair.
I watched the replay today already. So we'll go on to the next game before we just keep going on about an amazing performance. Followed up with another dominant display. Seagulls defeated the Dolphins 58-18.
Yeah, this is going to be a workout, a verbal workout. Brad's old flame, Manly, 10 tries to 3.
I might go back.
You might go back after that. Jason Saab grabbed 1. Ruben Garrett grabbed a hat-trick. Tom Trebojevic grabbed 2. Lachlan Croker. Kohler grabbed 2. Jason Saab grabbed another one, actually. So a lot of multiple try scorers there. 10 try scorers in total. 3 tries for the Dolphins. Jermaine Asako, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow grabbing 2. So the usual suspects there.
Yeah, so dominant display from Manly here. Their backs had a field day, as you saw by all those guys scoring in bunches. But they also, I think the most pleasing aspect for me as a former Manly fan was they played almost error-free footy and they had a super low penalty count. Kind of helps when you're basically the one holding the ball all the time. But they need to build off this performance if they wish to either climb the ladder or simply remain in the 8 with how tight it is. They need to build off this. If they can without their stars, through the origin period, it's another thing. But I thought it was very convincing and hopefully for Manly fans a sign of things to come. Your take on Manly before we talk about the poor old Dolphins.
Manly have been one of the few teams this year. There's been a few of them capable of both great and below average performances from week to week. This week we got the great, and like you already touched on, Brad, some great performances from their backs, particularly Garrett playing out in the centres. Thought he was outrageous. 30-point game. Yeah,
and your take on the Dolphins?
Unfortunately for them, it's been a hard couple of weeks. I think Jacko in the comments there summed it up nicely, saying depth and the grind of the NRL has caught up with them finally. I tend to agree with that. It's that they put up a good fight against injuries and suspensions for quite a while there, but the long NRL season takes its toll on your roster. There's a lot of attrition there. Most sides go through it, so I think it's finally hitting them a bit.
Yeah, I've kind of got that. I've got the shines coming off the Dolphins now. The depth's not up to par. As we had said before the season even started, we thought the depth would be tested. They proved us wrong for a little bit, but now it's actually starting to kick in right when they really need it not to. Credit to them, though, for scoring a try at the death, not giving up, but they were completely outclassed here. I know we got the same player in this one, but who did you pick?
Yeah, Garrett. I already kind of gave it away, but yeah, he was really, really good.
Yeah, and Paul mentioned they were in the last 5 games, the Dolphins were 2-3, beating the Dragons and Sharks. We don't really count anyone beating the Dragons, Paul, but beating the Sharks is still
Well,
It's
explain
still
what
good.
happened this bloody weekend then.
they ruined our multi because that's what the Dragons do to me. But yeah, that's segueing into it perfectly, Paul. Next game, Dragons defeating the Rabbitohs 36-30.
This should have been the week.
The only game, if we'd got this one bloody right and the Rabbitohs had done as they were told, we would have finally got the multi. And then, all would have been right in the universe.
I know. Anyway, I'll get into the game. Crazy old game, which we'll get into. 6 tries each in the end for the Dragons. Ben Hunt, Ravalawa, Jacob Little, Jaden Sewer, Michael Molo, and Jaden Hunt were the try scorers for the Rabbitohs. Richie Kenna, Gion Kolomatangi, Isaiah Tass, Jacob Host, Lachlan Ilias, Campbell Graham. Those last 3 tries all coming in within sort of 2 minutes of each other right towards the end of the game.
Yeah, and before I give my thoughts, Jacko's mentioned maybe it's time to give up on the multi.
Never.
Every defeat makes us one step closer to our next victory. It's going to happen.
Or our one victory.
Yeah, and it's Paul's money that we're wasting.
It's not their money on the line, boys.
Yeah. I'll bet on Paul's money any day of the week if you'll let me. But yeah, shit. So I have to talk about the Dragons now.
You do. Give them some praise, Brad.
The first complete performance from the Dragons in some time, I thought. Their pack controlled the middle. Tyrell Sloan got to show us a bit more of what he's promised. And Ben Hunt had the ball on a string. More games like this, and they might avoid the spoon. They just need to be mentally switched on for 80 because they almost cost themselves the game with some mental lapses in like that final 10 minutes. But yeah, well done, Dragons, I guess. Your thoughts on the Dragons?
I was meant to ask Paul earlier, can we put audio files on this podcast? Because I wanted to put the Jonathan Thurston laugh here directed at Brad.
Yeah, we could have done.
All right, I'll keep that in the back pocket for next time. But yeah, seriously, I thought they were pretty good. Minus like what Rob said in the comments, minus the last 5 minutes. They look decent. They look like a functional footy squad. And yeah, take away that last 5 minutes, it would have been a pretty dominant win. I don't know what happened in that last 5 minutes, but hey,
they started playing like the Dragons, Richie.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on the Rabbits?
Missing Cody Walker this week was a really big out for them. So much of what they do comes off him. It was kind of like what I just said a moment ago. It was looking like an embarrassing defeat to the team at the bottom of the ladder before a scarcely believable finish to the game where they went bang, bang, bang from the 76th minute onwards and really closed it up because it was looking like a bit of a hiding before that.
Yeah. I've got the same. They really missed Cody Walker and Latrell Mitchell, but they almost stole the win at the end. So they still had some good stretches of attack, but without that spark and some poor defensive reads, it was just a big missed opportunity for Souths. This is a game they can probably circle later on in the year going, this is the one. And yeah, like Jacko said, the Rabbits were off, which is why the Dragons look reasonable. Yeah, I put it down to more the Rabbitohs were bad than the Dragons were good. Which should alleviate Rob's fear where he said they were playing themselves into form just before they play the Warriors. It was 36-14, as Paul said, after 74 minutes, and then it ended up being 36-30. If that had happened just, in the 70th minute instead, we'd be talking about a Rabbitohs win. I could almost guarantee it.
There would have been some people out there that had Dragons 13 plus would have been fuming at full time.
Yeah. Who would have put Dragons 13 plus?
Yeah, there's some mad men out there that do that kind of thing.
Your player to stand out?
I put Ben Hunt because you already said.
The default?
It is, but like you said in your breakdown too, it seemed like he had the ball on a string. He's normally when the Dragons going well, he's going well.
Yeah. I went with Tyrell Sloan. I'm a big fan of him, despite him being a Dragon. He's in my fantasy team, and he actually started getting me some points this week for once. But yeah, he's got a lot of potential. He started the year really well with his confidence. He's a real confidence player, and I think it's kind of, as the Dragons have collapsed, so has his confidence levels. He kind of got a little bit of that back this week. Hopefully it goes back into a shell after the bye when they play us. But I thought it was a decent game for him.
Wait, so you have a Dragons player in your fantasy team?
Yeah, Tyrell Sloan.
Brad,
there's no bias when it comes to fantasy. And Robbie's asking how it is. My team is dreadful at the moment. I lost Nathan Cleary.
We ask every week how his team is, and we know it's crap, so I'm not surprised.
Every week.
He's got 2 or 3 Tigers in there too.
I've got Baller. Baller's my only Tiger.
Maybe we need to post a screenshot of your team every week.
No, you don't want to see it. I had Cleary, and then Cleary got injured, and then I brought in Nico, and Nico had like the worst game of his life. So, and Rob said always Dragons in my fantasy team. They're usually cheap because no one wants to play them.
You've got the whole Dragon spine in there, don't you?
No.
He didn't say anything about team. He just said your fantasy boy.
Oh, true. Yeah, always. Yeah. They plagued me. We'll move on to the next game. Broncos defeating the Knights 24-20, Richie.
Yeah, good competitive game, that one. Was 4 tries each. Sal and Cobbo grabbed 2 before his hip started playing up on him. Brendan Piakora and Adam Reynolds got the 4 tries for the Broncos, 4 tries for the Knights as well. Dom Young with 2. Kalen Ponga got a really nice one, and Matt Croker.
Yeah, so a slower start for Brisbane, not getting a point till the 30th minute. But they always looked like they were going to win this match. And once they spied a chance to strike, they did. And they took the ball by the horns. Walsh, Haas, Cobbo, Reynolds, they all put their hands up. And they still look like one of the teams to beat this year, in my opinion. But what was your take on the Broncos?
They keep showing me this year how far they've come. I think this game, if it's the Broncos late last year or the previous few years, they would have dropped that game. They were down by a try at halftime. They were down by a couple of tries late and were able to score a couple of tries in the 68th and 76th minute. The game-winning try was a thing of beauty from the halves, the Broncos, between Mam and Reynolds. So even when they're not playing at their really best, they're winning games. So they're a dangerous team.
Your take on the Knights?
I actually thought it was a pretty good performance from them against one of the top teams away from home as well. They weren't far off pulling off a pretty big upset here against Brisbane. They took something special late from the Broncos to pull it out of the fire.
Yeah, I kind of got the same. I thought they played well and they did look to have the match in the bag as it was coming into that final quarter. But then they switched off and left the door open for the Broncos, and the Broncos just booted it in. I thought Ponga showed glimpses of what he can do. It was probably one of his better games this season, which I know isn't saying a lot, but you got to start somewhere on this return. I think for Knights fans, they'll be hoping they see more of that from him as the season goes on, especially with him, focusing just on them and not on Origin, like we talked about last week. Maybe it will help take a bit of pressure off him and let him play better. Your player to stand out?
I put Ezra Mam. If for nothing else, the last pass he threw for the game winner, he's got that in him. He's got special plays in him. man. I'm a big fan. I'm not a fan of the team he plays for, but I'm a big fan of him individually. I think he's got a long career ahead of him of moments like that, and he's younger than Reece Walsh. He's still young. He's going to be ridiculous, I think, once he's a fully mature half and spending a couple of years with Reynolds before Reynolds finally hangs him up.
Yeah. So you went with the cliche of going with a half, so I'll go with my cliche, and I went with Payne Haas. He is the best front rower in the game. He got 222 meters in this game as well. He's just a beast. Probably the only player in your New South Wales team that I actually like. But I just thought he had another great game. He always just delivers. You know what you're going to get from him. Fantastic outing for him. Next game, Panthers wiping the floor with the Roosters, 30-6.
Yeah. I don't know whether to enjoy it because the Roosters got towed up, but I don't like the Panthers, so it's kind of bittersweet. 5 tries to 1. Stephen Croden, Dylan Edwards, Isaiah Yeo, Brian To'o, Isaac Tamor. Only the 1 try for the Roosters, the skipper, James Tedesco.
Yeah, I thought this was a strong statement game from the Panthers. Say what we say about the Roosters and how they're going this year. There was the Panthers playing, a decent squad of the Roosters without Nathan Cleary. But it didn't really matter. I thought Cogger did a decent job in his place, as is we kind of come to expect with the Panthers. When Cleary's out, whoever fills in for him does a decent job.
Next man.
As I mentioned in our Naughty Boy Corner, the forwards of the Panthers showed a bit of niggle and got under the Roosters' skin. And it was essentially one-way traffic. And I think it just all fell away once, some of those Roosters players were seeing the red mist. They weren't thinking about trying to do what the coaches asked them to do. They were kind of going off in Maverick. Like the Broncos, this is another team to beat this year. It's just, strong performance from the Panthers, as much as I don't like saying that. But your take on the Panthers.
Yeah, they did a great job. Obviously without Nathan Cleary, but like you said, they have a next man up mentality. You look across the squad and there's just guns everywhere else anyway, so it shouldn't really come as a surprise. But even without Cleary, they were clearly a few levels above the Roosters. Good platform set by their forwards. Cogger did a good job, and I think Luai really steered the ship well in Cleary's absence.
And your take on your premiership contending Roosters, Richie?
No, I'm that's well and truly gone now. We can just make jokes about that claim for the rest of the year. But not the kind of performance that will likely see the Roosters play finals footy if they keep producing games like this. I've got fingers and toes and everything else crossed that they will keep producing games like this. I'll happily take the wrong preseason tip and see them miss finals. That'd be really satisfying.
I would just like to highlight the insights that you get on this show. That as Brad points out, that one of the teams to beat not only are the Broncos, who are second in the table on 22 points, but also the team that's top of the table in 22 points. The two teams at the top on joint points are the 2 teams to beat this season. And don't you forget it, because Brad has pointed that out. You heard it here first.
One of them's back-to-back. One of them's back-to-back champion as well. So
beating 3 grand finals in a row. You get what you pay for, Paul. I try to bring some insight. I talked about the niggle. Come on. That's what I bring into it. You want intellectual stuff, you go to someone else. You don't come to me. My thoughts on the Roosters now that Paul derailed us. Roosters are a mess. They look completely out of sorts. They're not playing as a team. They make too many errors. As I said, they got sucked into the antics by the Panthers, and they just couldn't build any attacking shape. They were a turnstile on defense. You name it, they did it wrong. no clue what's happening at the club, but they need to sort it out, which is potentially why they're cutting all the depth and just relying on the guys they pay all the big money to next year for some reason. Yeah, and as Jay said, Brad's a wise front rower, exactly. Means you're going to get very blanket statements from a front rower. Paul, player to stand out, Richie.
Could have chosen a number of people. I chose Luai. A lot of people sort of talking in origin selection. Is he a package deal with Cleary? Is he only there because of Cleary? I like that he showed that, he's his own player. And as much as I despise him as a person, he's a good player.
Yeah. That's okay guess. So I guess we're going to see that he's packaged with Cleary next Wednesday when he fails on the big stage. But I went with Isaiah Yeo. Thought he's still there. I still think he's one of their best players. He's such a good link man for the forwards and backs, and I think he had another good game for them. But we'll move on to the next game. The Storm defeating my predicted premiers, the Sharks, 54-10.
Oh, I still can't get past the wise front rower thing. It's a bit of an oxymoron there, isn't it? Storm obliterating the Sharks. 9 tries to 2. Tui Kamakamitha, Will Warbrick, Harry Grant got 2. Xavier Coates got 2. Josh King, Remus Smith, Jerome Hughes. 2 tries to the Sharks. Tig Wilton, Ronaldo Mulitalo. Brad's premier tip, by the way. Let's throw that in there since he threw me under the bus.
Yeah, we're doing great with our predicted premiers. Storm flexed their muscle here, and it was essentially a training run. They looked like they were having fun. Cameron Munster and Harry Grant were making Cronulla look silly. And simply put, a confident Storm is a dangerous Storm. Your thoughts on the Storm?
Very, very hard to get a read on this year. Thrashed by the Cowboys by nearly 50 last week. Maybe I should have seen the bounce back coming. But great games from their spine players. Harry Grant in particular had a field day. Jerome Hughes. Pretty much everybody, to be fair. They, as a team, they were levels above the Sharks.
Yeah, this was we picked 3 games different last week. You got one of them right. I got the other 2. This was the last one. This helped me out a lot. You picking the Sharks. So thank you for that. But what was your take on the Sharks before we move back on to me?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm annoyed by them because, like you said, I tipped them. I was looking at this game before the game when I was trying to put my tip together. I was thinking, Storm just got thrashed. Sharks haven't been good. Yeah, I chose the wrong one. But definitely an off night for the Sharks. They got completely worked over. Yeah, this is quality content.
You're giving me crap.
I got it wrong. No stretch to the log.
Yes. See? So it's not just me being a dumbass. Thank you very much. It's a combined effort.
They got worked over defensively all at sea, especially down Moylan's edge. I think he missed over double digits in tackles on his own. So, not pretty.
Yeah, the Sharks had an off night at the worst possible time. Nico needed, a big game from his team to, potentially get that origin spot. But you said Moylan missed double digit. They missed 57 tackles in total. They made 14 errors, and you can't do that against the Storm. Giving essentially 14 sets just for free to the Storm is not a way to win football. Hines, he did have a mixed bag, but he needs help out there. He can't do it all on his own, and it looked like no one was willing in this game. I think it's going to be a timely wake-up call for the Sharks, and the biggest thing they need to do is start winning games against other top 8 sides. But I know we picked the same player for this one, but who was your player to stand out?
Harry Grant. He was He is. He's every week he's good, but yeah, he was a real thorn in the Sharks' side.
Yeah, he got some handy tries and he was just everywhere. I picked him too. It was a fantastic showing for him. Which takes us to the last game on the King's birthday weekend in Australia. The Eels defeating the Bulldogs 34-12.
Yeah, and how fitting King Gutho getting a hat trick on King's birthday.
Yeah.
6 tries to 2, as I said, 3 to Clint Gutherson, 1 to Bailey Simonson, Will Penasini, and Mike Acevo were the Eels try scorers. 2 try scorers for the Bulldogs, Matty Burden, Hayes Perham.
Yep. Eels will be disappointed with their error rate, I think, in this, but they were kind of it felt like they were throwing everything at the wall and seeing what stuck. And it worked here. It's not an ideal approach against other playoff contenders, but it worked here. And as you said, King Gutho, on his celebratory weekend, he did the job. Your thoughts on the Eels?
They did well despite missing Dylan Brown, who's been going well for them. So even missing him, they went well. Mitchell Moses and Clint Gutherson put their hands up to fill that void and help guide them to a dominant win. And like we touched on earlier, for someone like Mitch Moses, it was a decent audition to get him the higher honours the next week.
It's just typical that they give him the Bulldogs in that type of situation so he can do what he does best and be a flat track bully. But your thoughts on the Bulldogs?
You're pretty disappointing this week, I felt. I thought they might put up more of a fight. Traditionally this is a bit of a rivalry game where the Doggies put up a decent fight, but I don't feel like at any point in this contest they were in it. Only the 2 tries, one in the 15th minute, one later on in the 58th, so that they're always behind. And not the best. They've been putting up better efforts than this. I feel like so they can't get people like Kikel, those kind of guys back soon enough.
Yeah, they actually made less errors than the Eels here, but the difference was the time and location of the errors. There was some good solo efforts from the likes of Burton. I thought Hayes Perham, it was probably one of his better games for the Bulldogs. He's
nice try.
He set up Burton's try and then he got a try of his own. And I thought Preston was really good as well. They just need more of a team effort to get the win. Which, as you said, when they get some of those other players back, maybe that will help them, kind of get away from that danger zone at the bottom of the ladder. But I'm not sure if it's going to happen. And Jordan said, it wasn't a holiday in Queensland. Australia can't get their holidays sorted. They all do it at different times. But we've got the same player. We've already talked about him a bit, but player to stand out.
On his birthday, the King, Clint Gutho.
Clint Gutherson had to do it, hat trick. It was on his weekend. And Paul said, how many birthdays does the King need? You're the one that kind of tell us that. You're the pom, Paul. I don't know. And Jacko said, wonders how Serrato feels when he watches what Webster and the Warriors are doing.
Yeah, because they've had injuries, but so have we, and a lot of the pundits would have tipped us as a bottom 4 team. So I think Webby's getting the better of that little that little coaching duel.
Yeah, I think it's a time thing though. I think we weren't expecting Webster to do what he's done straight away, and I don't think anyone was expecting Serraldo to do it either. Serraldo was just doing what we all thought, where it's going to take time. And he's got to wait for the other 20 or so Panthers players he's bringing into the squad next year before they play well. Where Webster's approach of not having any Panthers and doing it straight away is working for the Warriors. So, I'll take it. But that was the round. So, Paul, if you want to bring up the ladder of the picks, whichever one you got. We've got the ladder. You did top 8 last week, so I'm taking it.
Go on.
So still number one of the teams to beat, Penrith. Number 2, the other team to beat, Brisbane. Third is Melbourne, potentially a team to beat as well. Rabbitohs are 4th. Sharks have gone down to 5th. Warriors have gone up to 6th. Raiders have gone down to 7th, and Manly have gone up to 8th to make the 8. And the rest of the teams, Rich.
The rest go like this. Para have moved up to 9th. Titans have moved up to 10th. Dolphins out of the 8 now. They've dropped to 11th. Roosters 12th. Newcastle 13th. North Queensland stand 14th. Bulldogs stand 15th. West Tigers stand 16th. St. George stand 17th. So that bottom 4's stayed the same from last week.
Yeah. I'm very happy to see the Warriors kind of get up a bit closer. I was a bit concerned if they had lost that game against the Raiders, they'd be out of the 8 right now. It's that tight. So, very happy with that. But yeah, we'll move on to picks, Paul. I'm actually excited about it this week. So Richie and Simon both got 3 games wrong. They got 5 out of 8. Simon is still leading, 73 out of 116. I'm getting closer, though. I got 6 out of 8. I only got 2 games wrong. I shouldn't have been a gambler and gone for the Tigers. But I'm on 69 out of 116. And then, Richie, you're officially last now. No alphabeticals. 5 out of 8 was 68 out of 116.
The cream's going to rise, mate.
I'm catching Simon. Simon's kind of got the speed wobbles. Hopefully I can get back. Spoiler, I'm looking at his tips. It's not going to happen this week because we're thinking along the same lines. So, so that's the picks. So we'll move into questions before we go into the next round. What questions did we have from you, Paul?
Well, I was wondering if you're going to be with no Warriors this weekend. Are you going to have your sporting fix by watching some basketball? Are you going to head off to Tuatara versus the Sharks this week? Asks Robbie.
No, I'm not going to that. I'm going to the Sharks and Bulls on Sunday. So for those of you that don't know, the Southland Sharks basketball team my cousin plays for. So I spoke with the NBL about their roster and how they schedule things because they were always scheduling games in Auckland for him when the Warriors were playing, which made me look like a bad cousin by not going. So they decided, we'll put a game in Pukekohe when the bye's on for you. So it's very thankful.
So you've got your you've got the kind of complimentary VIP box, free flow and food ticket.
It's a game in Pukekohe, Paul. They play it where they have the swimming pools. No VIP and no. I was waiting for the complimentary ticket from my cousin and it wasn't coming, so I bought my own.
Big spender.
It's very expensive. I think it's like $20 or something to go. But yeah, it's always good to support family. So I'm going to that one. I don't support them enough to go all the way out west to watch the Tuataras though. So no.
The Tuataras who were a baseball team, who folded as a baseball team and re-emerged as a basketball team. So there we go.
They can do it all. Yeah. Basketball and baseball aren't that hard a sport, so you can play them both.
So Rory says, Sean Johnson for Daily M. We kind of touched on it earlier. I guess rather than saying, is he up for Daily M, who is your Daily M of the season so far, boys? And it's so, Brad, who's been the best player of the season so far for you?
I think Sean's a good shot for Daily M. I think Payne Haas is probably still at the top right now. I think the problem with Sean, the only thing we've got to worry about with Sean in terms of Dally M is the fact that I feel like almost every week he's battling for those top points with chance. But yeah, I suppose you could say the same with Payne Haas and Reece Walsh. But yeah, at the moment, I think Sean's a decent shot. If not, I'm going with Payne Haas because I want a prop to get it.
And Richie, how do you think the Daily M is going at the moment?
I think Payne Haas is. I think he's leading, and yeah, in my opinion as well, but in most people's opinions, he's just producing 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 every week. So I do think Sean's in with a shot. I actually, my opinion on that, Brad, is I feel like he's actually getting the points over Chance. Chance does a lot of the unappreciated sort of, all those yards, carries early in the set, a lot of run meters, whereas Sean's mopping up all those try assists and all the stuff to get us over the try line. So, yeah. But Payne Haas, I think, is leading it currently.
Yeah, well, it's behind closed doors now, so we're all just guessing.
Yeah.
But
on the beyond, I mean, topic we've talked about a lot of times, I guess, is what should happen in New Zealand during State of Origin. But what do you think about an Auckland versus rest of New Zealand State of Origin for over here, or would you prefer the Kiwis play against another team, or would you go New Zealand Pakeha versus New Zealand Maori?
I'd be a fan of the Kiwis playing more tests and a try series or a quad series against some of the Pacific nations.
Yeah,
and,
I think,
and maybe Great Britain, England.
Yeah, I'm more for Kiwis as well. I think the perfect one would be Kiwis Tonga, just due to the fact that so many of the Samoan team play for New South Wales, so they're not going to give up playing Origin to play for Samoa. So it'd be depleted team. There are still quite a few Tongans that play for Queensland and that as well, but something of that nature. I don't know if you could get Great Britain down here for it.
No, like if thinking about it, if the question is during State of Origin time, then you're thinking 3 games. So maybe a test series against Tonga or Samoa, 3 test series.
Or Papua New Guinea have many players in the State of Origin?
Nah.
Oh, no, maybe not. I don't
think they've got any.
Yeah, I think in terms of competition though, I think Samoa and Tonga, the way they've been going the past few years, I think they'd be a bit more competitive.
Simon goes, International Rugby League is a bit of a basket case right now. I would argue it's a bit of a basket case always, but there we go.
It always has been.
But it is a basket case. But if we don't get games, it's not going to get better.
Yep.
Being a basket case and just putting them in the corner and forgetting about it does not make the situation better. So I'd rather see them try at least. But in all honesty, they don't care. That is the biggest hurdle. The Australians, they even bastardized their own competition that goes for half a year for 3 weeks. Or more than 3 weeks, because it's the week before, potentially the week of, and the week after all gets affected because of Origin. Which, that's their prerogative because of all the money it makes, even though they're going to lose shitloads of money in game 3 when no one goes for a dead rubber. But it is what it is. You got more questions?
Just one last one to finish off. It says for the prop, but I think we'll go for both of you. Who's your favourite rugby league thugs of all time, boys?
Brad's is Hopewadi.
No, Hopewadi is. He took it to a new level. I'll give him that, but not a level we can be proud of. Mark Geyer. I've got Kevin Campion and Gordis Tallis in my head. I don't see them as thugs. They're more enforcers. Tallis is probably a bit of a thug more than Campion. Campion just didn't take a back step and was always interested. In the current game, I'd say Jared Warrior-Hargraves and Nelson. I think they are both very thug-like, and Nelson has kind of perfected the art of thuggery because he does a lot of thuggish things and never gets in trouble for it, which is kind of that's the where you want to be, Paul. You want to be the big thug guy and never get punished for it.
Richie, you're...
Yeah, I was a big fan of Tallis for that kind of thing. Just the over the top, aggressive sort of player. So yeah, he's one. I don't really see him as a thug per se, but whenever a scuffle went on, Monty Beetham, he never took a backward step, and he belted his fair share of players. So
I still remember, Rob's probably not here anymore, but there was a Warriors game where we got a try because of a big overlap, and it got taken away because Monty punched somebody at the start of the play, and they took the try off us. I still remember it in the back of my head.
Rob will know the exact game you're talking about.
Yeah, and Jacko mentioned Kevin Tamati as well. He's well before my time, but I've seen all the highlight reels. So
yeah, he was
questions from the live chat, boys.
Yeah. So we'll go with my one. I think my one's a bit quicker. Ali Leatawa, we've already talked about him a bit, Richie. He had a decent debut. Would you keep him in the centres or bring in one of the more experienced players back for this game against the Dragons?
I think given that he got his chance off the back of an injury, I think Rocco Berry in his couple of games he played was going quite well. I think he probably had one of his better games in a Warriors jersey against the Broncos in Napier. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind going back to that just to keep that going. But I certainly wouldn't be against Leatawa having another crack. I thought he was more than sound on debut, and if he continued to get picked, I'd have every confidence he'd do a good job.
Yeah, I'd be happy to keep him there too. I saw more than enough to think that he is as good as those other players that you're throwing out there at the moment with the Berries. Willie Army, I thought was going really well, but we haven't seen him for a long time. And Malia's fallen off the bus somewhere. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
So I think, Ali should keep it. Your question for me?
So we're a good chunk of the way through the season now. A team you predicted for big things this year, the Sharks, sitting 5th currently. Do you still see them as the team or a team to beat this year, or are they falling short of your expectations?
They're falling completely off the cliff of my expectations. I was expecting big things after what we saw from them last year. The same problems they had last year we're seeing this year, though, which is they don't beat teams above them on the ladder. Or anywhere in the 8 at the moment, to be honest. They've lost to us, who are below them. Until you can start beating teams in the top 8, you might make the 8, but you're not going to stay in playoffs long. We kind of saw that with the Titans, remember, where the Titans were kind of really bad and they squeaked in and it was all over. They have fallen short. They may stay in the 8 by the time finals come around, but if they are, it's going to be 7th or 8th. I wouldn't be surprised to see them completely miss, to be honest. But they're 5th right now, better than your predictor ones at 12th, mate.
No, you're okay. That's a good segue. I was just going to ask you. So, in the battle of, your predicted premiers versus mine, they were playing tomorrow. Who would you tip?
I'd pick Sharks.
Ooh.
Because Sharks are in the top 8. They can't beat top 8 teams, but they can definitely beat those other ones, and that is where the Roosters are right now.
That's a good point.
So, I think they have a better chance of staying in the 8 than the Roosters do of getting in the 8 by finals time.
Well, there's a lot of time to go and not a lot of points separating them, so be interesting.
We've been very good with our predictions so far. So we'll see. Which segues us right into round 16. So that's where we bring Paul/Simon out to do our picks. Not a lot this week. There's 5 games, which means we could be closer to a multi, Paul. We'll see. So first game on Friday, we've got Cowboys-Panthers. I've gone with the Panthers. I know they got those outs due to Origin, but the Cowboys' best players are also out for the same reason. So I've gone with Panthers.
Yeah, me too. I think the Panthers will deal with the Origin outs a bit better than what the Cowboys might.
Yep. No, I'm going with the team to beat. Funnily enough, will be might beat the team that's not to beat.
You heard it here first.
First, yes, the Panthers are $1.67, are clear favourites over the $2.17 Cowboys. So yeah, Panthers.
Yeah, next game, we've got a triple header on Saturday, starting with the Knights Roosters. I've gone with the Knights. Think they're going to be too strong.
Yeah, I went Knights as well. The Roosters have been rubbish even with their Origin players. So take Tedesco out of there, and yeah, I think Knights.
Sin and John has said Cowboys to win, and he's been keeping me up to date with his picks every week, and he's kicking my ass. So yeah, Cowboys are probably going to win.
Might try them for next season. Well, look, at the end of the day, you got a Knight all in armour, you got a Rooster pecking away. He's not going to harm him, is he? So Knights all day long, and they're also favourites, $1.56, even more favourites than the Panthers, who are a team to beat. So yeah.
And next game on Saturday is Eels Seagulls. I've gone with the Eels. They got a lot of their talent still there. Manly's missing all their star power because of Origin. So yeah, I know Mitch Moses isn't there, but as long as you still got King Gutho, I think you're going to go all right.
Yeah, Eels.
Yeah, for a game that is, look, 6th versus 9th in the table, 17 and 16 points. It's I'm going Eels as well, even though the Sea Eagles will probably sweep in and grab them. But now Eels for this one, strong favourites at $1.56, even though they are, I say, next to each other in the table. So that one should be a cracker, or could be a cracker.
Yeah.
Yeah, next game, Tigers Storm. I've gone with Storm. I know they got a lot of talent gone, but no Luke Brooks, no uppy for Tigers. I don't see them pulling off that miracle like they did against the Panthers against the Storm.
Yeah, Storm. I should have chosen Storm this week. I got it wrong.
Look, it's got to be the Storm. I mean, the Storm, $1.41. I mean, they're the strongest favourites so far, even though they're not a team to beat. So look, the Tigers are going to be bottom of the table after this week because the Dragons on a bye will get 2 points, and that'll lift them above the Tigers. So yeah, this puts the Tigers down at the bottom of the table.
Happy days, Brad. Happy days.
Yeah. Breaks my heart. Last game, Sharks Bulldogs. I've gone with Sharks. I think Nico's going to have something to prove. So I think they'll get the job done here.
Yeah. Yes. I don't think Sharks aren't. Who are they missing for Origin? Is it nobody now?
I think nobody.
It's nobody, isn't it? I think they'll do a job on the doggies.
Yeah, well, doggies swimming in a swimming pool. We're going to get eaten by the Sharks, aren't they? Let's be honest. Look, the strongest favourites of the weekend, the Sharks were $1.22 with the TAB. Of all the teams, it's interesting that the Sharks are stronger favourites than the Storm are when you think they're up against the Tigers who are bottom of the table. Shows you how bad the doggies are going this year.
The Tigers can surprise though. That's their problem. They can come out of nowhere and do something, but I just don't see that happening. But yeah. So I think that's every game we agreed on. So it's going to be a 5-game multi.
Yes. It is a 5-game multi. So thank you guys. That's really going to help.
It's going to help out. We're going to get it.
You're going to get it.
I already put my multi in, throwing in the 2 rugby union games and the State of Origin game on top of it. That's how confident I am with it. So yeah. It'll end up being the Tigers ruining it for me, but that will keep the Tigers off the bottom of the ladder, so I'd be happy anyway.
It would keep the Tigers off the bottom of the ladder. That's very true.
Which is all that I care about, really.
That's all. So there is the multi. $2 on for a potential return of $13.98.
Yeah, see, so if we
Not
win
bad.
this one, we almost get you your money that you've lost back. So
Well, 6 rounds. How many rounds? How many rounds of the season are we in so far?
well, we only started this a little while ago. So yeah, I think you've probably lost like at least I'll say $12, and it's 13. So we'll get us in the green there. We'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, so that's the NRL. So now we're going to Jacko's favorite part, the Super League. Before we sign off, so Catalans are still top of the table. Richie with Warrington second, Lee third, and Salford fourth. Wigan have plummeted all the way down to sixth after a few losses. But the biggest news, and I know Paul will be excited about this, Wakefield, their losing streak's over. They defeated Leeds somehow. And they're still stuck in last place, 4 points behind Castleford, but at least they finally got some runs on the board, Richie.
Yeah, they finally did it. So good for Wakefield. It wouldn't have been nice if they went the whole season without a win. So disappointing for Wigan, obviously losing in heavy fashion and against St. Helens, which makes it even worse. So.
The results we had for round 15 in the Super League: Lee defeated Hull FC 28-16, Salford defeated Castleford 42-10, St. Helens defeated Wigan 34-16, Warrington defeated Uddersfield 30-26, Catalans defeated Hull KR 38-4, and then, as we said, Wakefield defeated Leeds 24-14.
Trinity defeated Leeds.
It's Wakefield Trinity. We don't call them by their full name until they get some more wins, Paul. And as Simon had just mentioned earlier, there's no Super League this weekend because Challenge Cup is on. So we've got the quarterfinals, Richie. We've got Hull KR versus Salford, Hull FC versus St. Helens, Wigan versus Warrington, and York versus Lee. So who do you think is going to be in the semis?
Yeah. You want tips? Okay. I will go. I'll tip Hull KR, St. Helens, Wigan, and Lee.
Yeah, I'll go a little bit different with I'll pick Salford over Hull KR. The rest I think the same. St. Helens, Wigan, and Lee.
Yeah.
Don't really know. The Hulls I can never bloody tell. 1 week they'll beat anyone, the next week they'll lose to anyone. So it's really hard to tell. But that's it for the Super League, really. With the Warriors bye, I might actually try to get in a bit more Super League this week, depending on how Wigan go. But anything else you want to add, Richie, before we go?
Thanks for the chat, everybody. It was a fun one. Some great insights, some great content. You guys are welcome for that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in and joining us on the Standoff with Brandon and Richie. For your weekly update on rugby league, tune into the show next week at 8 p.m. On Facebook or YouTube, or at your convenience on iHeartRadio, Spotify, all those places. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Cheers for all your help in the background, Paul, and cheers for joining me again, Richie, and good night, everyone.